welcome back to Pool Pro Podcast episode number 7. Today we have influencer Rudy Stankiewicz, who will talk about how to be a leader in the industry. We also want to thank our sponsor, the California Pool and Spa Association, who is working hard for the industry through responsible government relations and education. Stay tuned to be inspired with Rudy.
Welcome back to the Pool Pro Podcast. I'm Dave Rockwell with my partner,
Michelle Kavanaugh.
And we're here today with Rudy Stankiewicz. Rudy is well known in the online social media world. He has a group called Talking Pools. He's also a CPO instructor. I've been for a long time CPO instructor.
Yes, he is.
And was a recent participant last year in the Great Cyanuric Acid debate that was held at the National Show in New Orleans. So we're going to talk to him about a few things water chemistry related, but welcome, Rudy, and maybe I'll let you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself as well.
Hey, Rudy.
Hey, Michelle. How are you?
I'm
hey,
great.
Dave. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So, well, I'm on lockdown, like most of us are. I'm just a pool guy. That's all that it is. I've been in this industry for a very, very long time. And I've just gotten to that point where I want to give back. I mean, even doing the CPO classes, and Michelle, we've had that conversation before. It's just my way of giving back, to make sure people are educated, to make sure that they have the tools that they need when they go out into the field to make their lives easier, their jobs or companies more profitable, pools safer. Those are my goals. And that's really what I shoot for. So at this point in time, I'm trying to attempt to do the same thing. I'm trying to get out to everybody that, we're a big group. There's tens of thousands of us, literally.
Right.
So with that, we have to, use that. We have a big voice. If we can all get together as one, we have a really, really big voice. But separate, it's just, we don't know who's listening. So I'm just trying to, get across to everybody at this point. And there's quite a few folks on board with it that, we can make change happen if we want to, if we have a good direction.
Do you still have a pool service company, Rudy, or no?
I do not.
No.
Yes, I sold that just before I started teaching CPO.
Oh, okay.
I know, I don't know if Dave knows, I do have walking issues, and it's very hard to do pool service when you can't walk well.
Yep.
I actually tracked it at one point. I don't know if you've ever done this, Dave, but just for the service end alone, I just, can you guys still see me?
Yep.
Yeah, you're in.
I touched something. So, but just from the service end alone, I put one of those Fitbit trackers on at one point in time, and I did one of the routes for the day, and it came in at 13 miles. And at first I thought, there's no way. I mean, I know we walk a lot, but 13 miles?
Yeah.
So I did it again with a different brand, 13 to 14 miles, and it seemed to be consistent. There's a lot of walking involved.
Yes,
So,
that is the
in either case, that's why I sold that business and started to focus on education.
Yeah.
Well, and I think because of people like you, the forums that are out there, I don't think there's ever been a better time to get into this business in terms of the quality of the knowledge that's available for somebody that's just starting out.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. And everybody, for the most part, is so willing to help, which is fantastic. We're not, in some cases, as tolerable of rookie questions as I'd like to see us, but I think we're heading that way. And some groups are better than others, but there is a lot of folks out there who are, it's not like the old days where you don't want your competition to know anything. Now you'll freely talk with somebody down the street or on the other coast. So it's pretty neat.
I think where people get their chops busted on the media groups is if they use the group instead of calling tech support, or they just, the minute they see something, they throw it out there. And there are also other ways to get really good information, and that's the factory tech support and some other things too.
Oh, absolutely. And we've had that. And that's actually gotten a lot better over the years as well. So they're getting better at handling the volume of calls now. I mean, compared to back in the mid 90s. So
yeah, they're all, and the first time I heard that, leave your name and we'll call you back, I'm like, yeah, right, that's not going to happen. So I finally got the nerve to try it, and it actually happened. And I'm like, wow, this is great. I don't have to just sit here anymore.
That is awesome. Fantastic.
What's going on with PHTA, Rudy? I mean, I know you guys have, the transition with the merger and everything. I saw that you guys can actually do online classes now. That's pretty cool, actually.
We can do online classes. I have my first one coming up the end of next week. I'm going to do it on Friday. I've had a bunch of folks in limbo because of this whole virus outbreak, because I had a full month of classes planned, and I usually get a few people, and I've had to push classes back to unknown dates and times. So everybody seems really receptive to this. It's going to be, there's 2 different routes you can go: live instructor for 2 days in a row. I'm going to start out doing it the POP/live version. Yeah. So that
the online, they take the online class first, and then they do a 1 day with you.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. So I'm
and can they do the test online?
Yes. Now that's a new advancement. We can do the testing online.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
100% online course. Yes. Which is, it's exciting. But now, like, for example, the benefit is, and I've always had people fly in from different areas and such in parts of the world to come to the classes. But now they don't have to. So I have a student that's going to be in Hawaii. God bless them. They're going to have to wake up super early. Hey, it says 9 a.m. Eastern. So if you want to join my class, that's where we're at. I have Steve, Steve Goodall.
Yeah.
Up in Canada. He's going to take my class this Friday. I think it's more for, out of curiosity. I'm certain there'll be a blog post that he has about it. He's really good at those. So it's kind of neat. I'm excited.
And Rudy's taught in South Korea, Dave. Did you know that? He did a class in South Korea.
That's crazy.
I've done a few in South Korea. I actually have one on hold right now. I was supposed to be there. I know, Michelle, you tag along and on some of my adventures, at least the pics and stuff. So I was in Romania a couple of weeks ago. I wanted to go see, Dracula's castle because, why not? So
why
I went
not?
to Pennsylvania and all that. But that week, initially, I was supposed to be in South Korea. But with the virus outbreak, that made that not a very good place to go. And funny as it is I was going to double up and hit Beijing first and then go to South Korea. So just all bad for right now. So I do have that one in South Korea looming. I've taught in South America. I've taught throughout the Caribbean and then in the States. So
that's great. It's great. It's nice that you can use this platform to be able to do that too, to go outside of the country and teach.
Yeah.
It's great that you can do
now this doesn't involve, 12 hours on a jet with my ankles behind my neck. That's unfortunate. I just can't afford the business class ones yet. I mean, I could, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. I need the trip to be profitable.
Yeah,
so I'm just a step above baggage. But
well, at least you get to ride in the main cabin and not in the baggage area.
I get my bag of pretzels, I'm good to go. So, and they have coffee, which,
Now, from seeing some of your online posts about your classes, one thing that I notice is you like to teach your classes when you do them in person at a place that actually has a pool, so you can get some kind of hands-on with people. Is that correct?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think it's ridiculous not to. If the pool is there, why not take advantage of the amenities at the facility? I mean, that's what it's all about. And, so many folks learn so much better from doing than they do from reading. And I'm one of those folks. So
me too.
I think I kind of teach, it lends more toward the way that I learn. And, we do go outside, and I recommend, dressing according to the season. And we've been out measuring pools when it's drizzling, and thank goodness it doesn't snow here, but, but in crawling through pump rooms and all of that, it's, I get dirty and wet but we have a good time. And I think they really take a lot more with them away. The takeaway on the classes is larger because they've actually gotten to touch. They've seen things, and we talk about pumps when I'm standing at the pump, filters when we're at the filters. It's not abnormal to backwash a filter in class, depending on the type, especially, if it's something that they won't get to see often, because I like to do that as well.
Right.
You know, I think that's, the venue is so much a part of the class, I think, you know, it's the backdrop for the whole 2 days. It should be interesting.
So that's the one nice thing about online teaching, is that it makes it more accessible to people, but especially for newer people. There's nothing that replaces the hands-on, seeing what you're learning and being able to feel it and touch it, and being in a room full of other people and listening to the questions that they ask, and being able to interact and build relationships and friendships.
I'm hoping with the whole Zoom setup that'll still occur for at least
You'll have that. Okay.
And then I'm going to see exactly, you know, what I can do online in a class. They might not get to touch things, but they're going to see some things. And, you know, I always try to make sure everybody, no matter how long they've been in the industry, leaves with at least something new that they didn't know before that can help them going forward. So that's my goals in the programs.
That's great.
That's great.
So I noticed yesterday you posted finally the video of the cyanuric acid debate that happened back in New Orleans.
I did.
And I think it's a very interesting conversation. I think anybody that's listening to this conversation would benefit by watching that. It's a little over an hour. But I have to tell you, when I first heard that there was going to be a cyanuric acid debate, I thought, oh boy, this is going to be good. There's going to be fur and feathers flying, and pejoratives and epithets and insults hurled. And I got to tell you, from an entertainment standpoint, the thing was a huge disappointment.
They didn't hit anybody. I mean, I brought my stick. I always have that. But, you know, I mean, you saw the video, right, Dave?
Yes, it was a very civilized discussion, actually.
So I think it was good. I think we learned a lot. I think everybody there, and you know, I tried to be entertaining. I think I pulled it off a couple of times.
Yes.
I think everybody, I mean, the big takeaway from there was on the process more than what we talked about and just what they go through. I mean, and I knew a bunch of that going into it, and I learned a lot more while I was there also. I still don't agree with any of them. So as far as the debate goes, you know, hey, but yeah, you learn a lot. The video explains a lot about the process, and it really opens up your eyes toward how these decisions in the industry are being made, how, you know, the CDC or the CMAHC, which is what that was part of, right? The committee, the ad hoc committee for the model health code. But it takes you through how those are made, and really for me, sometimes it's a little bit disappointing.
Well, you know what, I was able to revisit the conversation with both Roy Vore and with Richard Falk, who were two of the participants that day. And I really got more clarity from them, talking to them afterwards. Actually, somebody stood up in the middle of the thing and said, okay, what are we actually debating here? The lines weren't really clearly drawn, but correct me if I'm wrong, what I get from Richard is he's very specific of 1 part per million of chlorine is not 1 part per million of chlorine. It's based on the amount of cyanuric acid in the water.
Right.
And it's much more complicated than that. Roy pretty much says, you got a part per million in the water, you're not going to have outbreaks, everything's cool, it's great. Where do you fall in on there?
You have other tools available to us. I mean, I'm a big proponent of making decisions at the pool, because every pool is different. These are not cookie cutter things. I mean, yeah, they all have water in them, but kind of like the personalized medicine trend in the US, you know, everybody's an individual. What works on you is not going to work on someone else. And pools are the same thing. And the best person we have to figure that out, you know, is a trained pool professional.
Right.
I understand that there are, you know, folks we need to get up to speed, but the majority of us are well trained and can make these decisions poolside, and we need to. Folks down in South Florida or California better want a higher cyanuric acid level, just the difference in UV rays and that type of thing. So the way I look at it is okay, yeah, we have cyanuric acid and we have chlorine, but we have an EPA, I think their maximum level EPA, no, World Health Organization, I apologize. Their maximum acceptable level for safe water is 130 parts per million, I think, for CYA. So we have that as a guideline that's out there. But, they're worried about people drinking it, and people don't drink copious amounts of pool water. So I don't know how much of a threat we're at. But I like to see how it's working. I mean, we have ORP available to us, and that's going to give us the clearest indication of how the chlorine's working, right?
Yeah.
And we have these tools available to us, and they are available in handheld devices for systems that don't necessarily have that set up. There is data that goes back to the early 70s that indicates that you can have a CYA level of 1,300 parts per million. If your ORP is greater than 650, it's going to sanitize the water.
It's going to sanitize the water, but there's...
Well, we don't want 1,300 parts per million, but, for an extreme. So
there are issues involved. I personally got away from using cyanuric acid at all. I have chemical automation systems on everyone except just a couple of pools. I'm becoming more and more of the opinion that the process of dosing pools by hand every week, the 1 week's worth of chemicals going in all at once is not really leading to the best water quality, and the pool does not adapt to variations in bather loads. And I think we're getting affordable tools at our disposal that eventually we could make that whole process go away. Well,
I know you're heavy into ozone, which is fantastic. And, there is not a better oxidizer we can use. And it has come down quite a bit in price. I remember, back in the day, these things were quite expensive.
I'm not even talking ozone though. I'm just talking about just very simple, basic chemical automation systems, ORP and pH,
like
for just a little bit more than what people are used to paying for a salt system. You can have really nice water quality, and it's very easy to maintain, and you really don't need a lot of cyanuric acid when you're replacing the chlorine as it's on demand.
Well, I agree, but really, when I went into that debate, you both in my group, and I've also asked in the other groups as well, when I went in, I wanted to represent us, the pool folks, pool guys, pool gals, pool professionals. That was my goal. So I asked a lot of questions. So I didn't really go in there to argue my opinions or my beliefs. I wanted to speak for everybody because it's so rare that we have a voice.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know of any other time that the Model Aquatic Health Code said, okay, let's go grab somebody from the field and sit them down with scientists and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I held my own.
I think you did too. Yeah, that was
so
good.
That was what I went into it with, and overall, and answers were all over the place when I talked to folks. If you guys had watched the different polls that I'd ran in the surveys and the questions, so that's the reality of it. You can't take care of a pool in Florida the same way you take care of a pool in Oregon. It's just different.
Right.
So I don't want to tell anybody
what to do.
Their business. It's their job to decide their business.
And you're dead on with saying that the key is to have a well-educated professional in the backyard making those calls. And there are guys who actually do a really good job maintaining a pool once a week. And the pool stays pretty nice. We don't have a lot of chloramines and so forth in it. But the key is the education. Now, I looked at the slate of educators for the Western Pool and Spa Show. Between startups, staining, and actual water chemistry classes, there was almost 20 different classes and different takes on water chemistry being presented. So for somebody kind of newer, it's
overwhelming.
It's a little overwhelming. There's a lot of, everybody teaches from a little bit different point of view, and they teach targets and ranges, and everybody's got a little bit different take on it.
I agree, but to be honest, the new folks that go into those shows, they're not the ones that I worry about, because they're going for the education and they are going to the shows. And if they're not right there right now, they'll get there. The folks that I worry about are the folks that wake up one morning, they don't know what to do with their life. Hey, I got a pickup truck. If I throw a pole in the back of it, I'm a pool pro, and off they go. That's the person that I worry about. And I think we need to figure out how to reach that person.
Right.
Because I don't know that we have anything in place right now that does. We're targeting people who want the education, or the professionals, or the licensed contractors. And these are folks who are on their game. It's the other folks that aren't, that we need to do something with.
Yeah.
And that's the and they don't necessarily all of them stick in the industry, but there's enough of them rotating in and out that they're always kind of just dragging they're a ball and chain on the industry. They lower our self-esteem because we know how people think of pool guys because of them, and they lower customers' expectations of us. So when a true professional comes into the backyard, they don't expect to pay him any differently than the guy that they're thinking.
Well, yeah, I mean, and there's an adage as well. You know, it's when you can't compete on service, compete on price. So you're really talking about folks that don't have the knowledge, and they need to gain their share of the market, and they don't have the skill set to compete, so they can't on that level. So they undercut the market. What they don't realize is that they're damaging the market when they do that. They diminish the value of the product. People look at pool service folks, as you had said, or they expect that same low pricing. And then the worst part about it is that person that came in and undercut the market, they're not going to be here next year, and we're left with it. There'll be somebody new in their place.
Right.
Down. That's going to just continue to happen. But we're left cleaning up the battlefield. Back in the day when I was in retail pool supplies, I used to say there was this thing called BPOS was the initials for it. It was my own classification for somebody with battered pool owner syndrome. Where they just been run through the gamut so many times, they'd lost total faith in anybody, pool, anything. And that was just the end of it. And then you have to work really hard to get those folks back. And they're weary for, for some, it's not even worth taking them on at that point. They're just burnt.
Right.
Right.
And we had an interview with, I don't know if you listened to one of our podcasts. It was the contractor's contractor. He's more on the building side. We interviewed him, and he said, don't win your way to the bottom. And that's what these guys, you don't want to win your way to the bottom with pricing, and distinguish yourself from a service perspective, whether you get to know your customer and build a personal relationship or whatever it is. You have to stand out from those competition, and you don't want to go get those accounts that are wanting to charge the lowest price. You have to move on and find the accounts where they value your service and your professional level and what your knowledge. That's the accounts you want to focus on.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and that's to the same point. I always tell everybody in class, especially when they're starting out, because these questions come up, and I'll field questions on breaks or what have you. So when these things come up, you know what? You don't have to be the highest priced person in town when you first start out, but you should have the same price, as everybody else, an average price. If you're seasoned in moving into an area, go ahead and charge 10% more. You can back it up. If you have a marketable point of difference, you can back that up. And one of the things that drives me nuts is advertising, websites, Facebook pages, the postcards you get. For the most part, and there are a few that are out there that are really, really great, and I'm not going to go bragging on anybody, but for the most part, there are, they all say the same thing. Mm-hmm. We do this, we brush, we vacuum, we skim, we know what we're doing, and we've been doing this for so many years.
And we're the best.
And we're the best. And who's going to tell you that they're not the best in their advertising? I mean, I've never pulled up a website where it just read, "We suck." Ever. But Dave, it applies to some, doesn't it? So
yes, right?
That's the whole thing. So if you're out there and you want to compete in these markets and you want to gain market share, what you need to do is come up with a marketable point of difference. And it doesn't even have to be something that's expensive. Now, I know nowadays we have a lot of those apps and things that'll take photos and send them to the customers. I was doing it long before those came out, and it was kind of by accident. I had a landscaper come out and dust the pool for me with leaves after I'd been there on a home that was for sale that they were showing that day. And I got reamed on the phone, and from that day forward, I always took a picture.
Yeah.
And then I was actually able to utilize that, because I know we do this, we send the pictures to the homeowners, but this became a marketable point of difference for me, and we can actually utilize it to grow the business. So I started to see, a lot of my customers were landlords, people that go away for extended periods of time on business, rental homes, vacation homes, people who do not get to see their pools on a weekly basis like everybody else does. So they don't know what a great job we're doing. So not only did I have proof in my pocket if the homeowner had a complaint, I made this a normal part of my business that I started just forwarding those pictures to the landlords and the retail. And I know everybody's doing it now, so it's lost some of its thunder. But that became a huge selling point for me because nobody else was doing it. Now the landlord had a set of eyes in the backyard that they did not have before.
Yeah.
And if I seen funky stuff going on, I worked for the landlord.
Yeah.
Yep.
I hope to still have that house after these people leave and the new folks move in. So that's the thing. For commercial pools, throw a leaf blower in the back of your truck. How long does it take to blow leaves off a deck, Dave?
Yeah, right.
You have more control over them, so they're not going in the pool because you don't have that mentality that the pool guy's coming. Maintenance folks at hotel, apartment complexes, student housing, that's their first job of the day, blow the leaves off the pool deck. If you take that off their hands, they can go free up and do other things. If you're head to head on numbers, you'll win that bid because you have a leaf blower.
And I'm thinking now with with this whole COVID thing, maybe washing down the decks and the patio furniture on a commercial pool is going to start. It should be something we should start looking at adding to our service.
We should, but we're going to need
surface clean is a big part of keeping people from getting sick.
I agree, but we're going to need verbiage that's somewhat legal that states that, it's not a guarantee.
True. That's a good point, Rudy. You got to protect yourself always.
You miss a spot and somebody gets sick and, hey, we paid you to disinfect the deck. Well, I wasn't disinfecting it. I was just cleaning it. So we need to make sure whatever we have states those things. So that way somebody doesn't lose their house because of it. But I agree. Those are things we should look at. We need to start to prepare for these things because Bloomberg's calling for one hell of a market crash.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that we just talked about a little bit was how easy it is to get into this industry. I don't think there's any other industry where there's so many different ways you could either make people sick or hurt people if you don't know what you're doing. There's no other trade that has those kind of risks that we have to manage that's so easy to get into. There's no apprenticeship program. There's nothing. You literally get a business license, take it to distribution, cash it in, and start.
There should be something. I don't know if the person that goes out there and brushes the walls and tests the water should be a licensed contractor just to do those things. But there should be something in place. They should have to have some type of training, I think, in order. And I wouldn't even know how to enforce it. Nobody goes to home. So it would be, you have to be in order to get your business license or something along those lines. And you know what? I'm probably not going to be popular with a lot of folks who are watching this now. But you know what? I don't care. So, I mean, really, it's what it is. It is what it is. You know what? If you don't have this, what I'm talking about, and you do a great job, that's great. But whoever it is out there, 5 other people that need training or shouldn't be allowed to touch a pool. And that's what we're trying to prevent. I mean, if anything, it secures everybody else's position and it increases our value.
Well, that's something Michelle's organization, CPSA, they work with legislators in California on all different kinds of things, but I've also seen them actually support the contractor's license law. Not every law that gets written is a bad law. I mean, there are some laws.
Not at all. Not at all. Everything happens for a reason.
Protect us and protect people. And I'm not necessarily calling for that, but there should be something. There should be.
When we went into the room with the legislators and tried to get licensing for that, they pretty much laughed us out of the room. They were like, "We don't have time for you. Get out."
Unless I can establish.
That's how we were received. So we got nowhere. Although PHTA, they passed they got the apprenticeship program approved in California. We just have to now. That just happened. 4 months ago or something.
Right.
But I think we have to now have somebody managing that and move it forward. And that's something they're going to use as a model for the rest of the country. So there is something coming. It just takes time to do all of that, which is good news.
Well, one of the other things we can take a look at then is possibly Sarasota County, because they're actually have their own code. When we spoke on that years ago, they're quite a bit more stringent than the state as far as pool operators go. Basically, anybody who touches commercial water has to have something, whether it's
Yeah.
my class or their own class, because I know they offer their own at a fairly reduced price as well. But
Yeah.
something. It
We're
has to be.
working on it. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. There needs to be something in place. We carry chemicals, and
Yeah.
landscapers can't carry chemicals without permits and such. I mean, we carry chemicals, and I'm not saying I don't want to make it harder on the guys that are doing the right thing, but what do we do to get the? I mean, maybe if somebody, I mean, my idea doesn't have to be the end all. I'm open. I mean, so nobody should get in a huff. But if you have a better idea, I know this is going to be posted somewhere where there's comments under it. You know, share. Ideas come from everywhere. I'll read every single one of them. I really will.
Yeah.
You know, up to 1,000, and then I stop because I just don't. One is my cutoff. So, just too many.
Well, and
Yes.
that carrying chemicals, you bring up an interesting point. I see it more and more on the road, and I see pictures of it posted in the social media groups with something a rack hanging off the back bumper of a car or a van that's got a case of chlorine and a case of acid just sitting there out there. I mean, if there's a rear end collision, that goes from a little fender bender to a very serious incident.
Some folks do that even in their so how do we do this unbiased? In their self-contained vacuum systems outside. They'll leave a jug of acid in there right on the back of the truck.
Yeah.
What if that bounces out? I mean, that's, you know, if somebody hits you, I mean, how much worse is the damage going to be? So it's all concerning. But you're right. You know, there's two different things that come up in the groups that you see. There's the things that are just completely unsafe, and that person shouldn't be doing what they're doing. And then you have the pro who's doing what they have to do. The person who has one truck and it went down, and now they're taking care of their customers. It's not an ideal situation, but they might not be in a car that everybody likes, but they're still doing it safely.
Yeah.
So there are two different folks that catch slack. And for the ones that are doing what they got to do, God bless them. They need to. What are they supposed to do? Just quit because their truck had a problem?
I started doing pools out of a Honda Accord hatchback.
There you go.
That lasted about 3 weeks. I got the acid and chlorine fumes mixed just right, and I went home with I was doubled over with stomach cramps. I couldn't even move.
Oh gosh.
And so I'm like, I went out the next day and bought a truck.
It definitely makes life a lot easier. That's true. You don't have to open something to get to things. So for sure.
How likely are you, Rudy, to, if you go to visit somewhere, go on vacation with your wife or wherever, how likely are you to get in the hot tub or the pool at the hotel?
I've been thrown out of so many pump rooms.
So you're going into the pump room?
I do. And if there's not somebody there and the door's open, that's their problem. They should have secured it. But I'll go in and start taking pictures. You know, everybody in the group likes to see pool porn and that type of thing, just a different machinery. But yeah, the worst episode was in the Dominican Republic. I actually thought I was going to be arrested that time. I was down there for the wedding, and this is when all of those deaths were occurring over there. And everybody, you know, but our friends get married, so what the heck, we went anyway. And I was in the pump room, and I got caught coming out of the pump room, and it just was a, you know, odd experience. So
well, thank God you didn't get arrested
in the Dominican Republic. Absolutely.
That would have been bad news, Rudy. Would you get in the pool though? Do you typically get in a pool or a hot tub when you're traveling?
No.
Yeah.
That's kind of a recurring theme that we've been having in our show.
Everybody asks me in class, because, you know, after the time you go through a CPO class, if you've not been exposed to these things, this experience before, by the end of it, you know, you're thinking pools are usually pretty gross. And that's not the point I'm trying to get out there. The point is that they could be if they're not handled correctly. So folks always ask me in class, do I even get in pools anymore? My response is always the same, and it's 100% true. I have no problem getting into a pool that I personally maintain. Mm-hmm. And if you do, that indicates a bigger problem, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, outside of that, no, I don't do water parks, pools, especially hot tubs. And the worst thing I've ever seen in my life is a hot tub on a cruise ship.
Ooh, we talked about that with Roy. But you'd be surprised, Rudy. Roy actually will get into a hot tub or a pool. He had the best answer we've had yet. But he tests it, and he looks at it, and he smells it, and he'll go in. He has no problem.
Well, you know.
Isn't that surprising?
To each his own, considering he's our microbiologist.
With what he knows,
But I don't know very many pool people, a couple that'll get into water.
Yeah.
So
And that's pretty much
That's
the
the
consistent
concern.
answer we get. Now, on a scale of 0 to 10, I'll tell you, I'm about a 5.
okay.
I
Me
love
too.
swimming. I love being in a pool. I will take my test kit, not just a couple test strips, but my whole kit. And I'll do like you. I want to peek over the fence. I want to see what the equipment looks like.
Right.
And more times than not, I'll turn my kids around and say, no, we're going to find something else to do. But if everything looks good, I fired up the spa jets and there's not a pile of foam on it, I like being in water. I'll do it. But I think, what the reason that we're kind of having this discussion with as many different people from as many different segments as we can in the industry is to get us as an industry to look ourselves in the mirror and go, okay, this is a real problem. We got a whole industry that's afraid to use its own product. How can we fix that? What can we do?
There's probably more to it than that. And I mean, we can focus on all those things we just spoke about, but somewhere in the back of everybody's mind, I mean, it's a lot like the mechanic's car. You deal with pools all day long. Do you even want to see one anymore by the time you reach the weekend? I mean, and like we spoke before, I vacation in odd places. I don't spend a lot of time in places that have swimming pools. There's water sometimes, but sometimes it's all frozen. And, that's what I like to do. So there's really not a lot of times that I will go. I can tell you this, though. I think it might change. There might be a change of heart if we could actually get folks to shower. And I don't know if you folks have been, I know you've both been out of the States, but any country that I've ever been to where there is a swimming pool, happens to be a swimming pool with a hotel or whatever, you can't get to that pool unless you pass through a shower.
Right.
Yeah.
If there's 6 entrances to the pool, there's 6 overhead showers running, and you have to pass through. And I've told people in class, because when it comes down to it, it's a U.S. problem where this is going on, and they're like, well, why can't they just scooch around the shower? I was like, because they don't. They understand that this is part of the hygiene required to go in. We'd done a survey at one point. We stood out in front of the water park for one of the articles that I'd written. By the way, yes, I do write. Wait, I have to do the plug. They said because of the name. I do write an article for Pool Pro magazine.
Nice.
Not related to this, but it's called The Operator, and I've been doing that since the beginning of this year, and I have one in every issue. But
can you get that online? You can get that online?
You can get it online, yes,
okay.
Absolutely. You can. So it's called The Operator. It's not just commercial, so it applies to residential and commercial as well. So it's a new thing that we're doing there, and for me, it's kind of nice to have columnist is something I've not had before. I've been a contributor a lot, but columnist, this is
That's
new.
exciting, Rudy.
Yeah, I think so. I was excited about it. So, so we did a survey. We stood out in front of the water park and we asked 100 people as they were coming through, why should you shower before you get in the pool? 30% of the people said germs. So they know. 30% is a big enough number that I know people know. They're just gross. That's what it comes down to.
They just don't want to do it. Yeah.
Make the pool guy's job easier was very common. Women shed more hair than men, so they need to hose it off before they get in so it doesn't damage the pump. That came up a couple of times, believe it or not. Showering lowers your body temperature so you don't get that initial chill when you dive in. Things
Interesting.
So some of them are off the wall. Some of them are
creative.
Off the wall.
That's creative one.
But 30% is a big enough number that,
It is.
And that's the whole problem in the U.S. It's not knocking it. I love it here. I would never go anywhere else. But the folks that use our pools, they basically go in with a mentality of, I don't care if my stench gets on you, but I don't want your stench on me, because you'll see more people showering when they get out before they get in. So they're not really grasping what the shower is there for. So
right. And don't you think, too, that it's all changing behavior, Rudy? Chip Latchley, we interviewed recently, and he said, all of his UV stuff and, indoor air quality stuff is all about, people's stuff in the water, and that's creating the problem. And so he said changing behavior is just, that's not something we're going to be able to do. So how do you change the behavior of all these people? It's impossible almost.
I think it's even worse than that. I think it's about money. I think it's 100% about money, because check this scenario, right? Because if everybody enforced this, people would be showering.
Yes.
They have no choice. But right now what happens is Hotel A, they enforce the shower rule. They piss people off. They lose guests to Hotel B, who's happy to take them in. I don't care. Be gross in my pool. It's all good with me, right? And they don't realize, and I mean, it's not as bad as Russian roulette, the chance of them being an epicenter for a crypto outbreak or something along those lines, but there is still a greater risk now because of that. We need everybody to do it so that way they have nowhere else that they can go to where they don't have to shower and sneak in, and that's what has to happen. So it's you know, it's money.
I look at where we're at with this conversation with pool users, and kind of compare it to where we were 10, 15 years ago on drowning prevention. It was a very hard subject to raise with people. People didn't want to think about it. They don't want to, you know, they didn't want to touch it. We've come a long way. Unfortunately, kids had to drown, people had to get hurt. And in the case of what we're talking about now, people are going to have to get sick. But if we can raise enough awareness, I think we can start to move the needle a little bit on the side of educating bathers. If we start to make it kind of an important message, we don't view it as an important enough message to really get it out there.
Well, nobody has a list of all the bathers out there. That's the problem. You know, to infiltrate that, all the consumers, you have to go to companies that are selling direct to consumers, and they have to start the messaging because we don't all have access to that. That's the issue.
Well, it starts with us, the people that are in the backyard, the people that are on the pool deck at a HOA or a hotel pool. We need to start getting information out into people's hands.
Well, educating the public is super expensive. Yeah. And anything, whether it's the courses we do or what have you. I think the easiest way to do it is with the swimsuit companies. You know, they all have a tag, put one more line, just one more line that says, you know, you need to shower before you swim. If it's in your swimsuit instructions in every single one, it's not going to fix it for everybody, but some people are going to read it, and we'll have more people showering before they get in than before. And it's probably the most cost-effective way to get the message out, to add one line to a tag. It might
That's a good idea, Rudy. Really good idea.
Just a thought. I have thoughts sometimes. You know, it's a lot like the whole, I mean, education is huge. Dave, I don't use chlorine. I have a salt pool. Education is huge. Now, whose job is that to educate the folks? Because I know people look at it too. I feel bad for the homeowners because they don't understand it. I don't think they're dumb. No. I think it just hasn't been explained to them properly.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. And it comes down to that lowest common denominator group of service people. They don't know the answers. There's so many, more and more customers are actually educating themselves and able to have intelligent conversations about water chemistry.
We should post that in my horror group. that some cool folks don't know how salt works. I mean, really, it is that scary. And you know, forget about it. I know we say it time and time again, but literally, honestly, I mean, there are lives at stake in what we do. I mean, and that's part of what we're doing now. I know you guys are you're pushing out in California, FSP here in Florida. I got my hands in it somehow, but the big thing is there are lives at stake in what we do, and a lot of people don't realize that. I've had people come to me the first day of the second day of class and tell me, look, this is a lot more responsibility than I thought it was going to be, and I just don't want to take that on. Mm-hmm. And then they Okay. That's happened more than once. I mean, so it does occur, but disease control, cloudy water is a huge contributor to drowning.
Yep.
Which is a huge problem in those young age group. And I had written a letter locally. I know you guys know that in the county that I live in, they said flat out, no pool service. And, you know, myself, FSPA, and then a lot of the pool guys in the area filed appeals as well. And we got that overturned. But one of the big focuses that we pushed was, hey, you know what? Cloudy water contributes to drowning deaths. Drowning deaths are the leading cause of accidental death for children right now, right? Ages 1 to 4. That's still a statistic, sadly. I can't wait till I can see that that's not in the books anymore, but it's still
right.
Yep.
And all the kids are home now because we closed all the schools. So how are you not going to have people taking care of pools with that? I mean, forget about the diseases, just that alone to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and we need to get that across to people. They need to understand those things as well. And that's,
Thanks for all your hard work and, what you've been doing is not just Florida, but other states, Rudy. I know you've been helping out other people that have posted that their pool service was not essential. And I think you've been trying to contact folks in other states as well.
I have.
Thanks for doing that.
I've called folks in Texas. I've spoke to folks in Michigan. It doesn't mean that I've actually gotten anywhere in some cases. And yeah, just all over the U.S. at this point in time. And it's scary. We actually started also, I don't know if you guys had seen this yet, and I don't know when you're going to put this out, but maybe you could reiterate with a post. I posted it in your group today also. We got a supply of masks that we're having manufactured, and we're giving them away because I know there are a lot of pool pros out there in the field that are essential that can't find one.
Right.
And so we're having them made. It's going to be it's a process. It's not going to ship the same day because they're all being made and stuff, but they are shipping out and they should have masks because I don't want anybody out there that doesn't have one. And, like I said, I have a certain quantity that we're just giving to folks because I know these things can be outrageous if you find them online, right?
Yeah.
Then if people want to purchase extra quantities, they can as well. Initially, we just had that in the Talking Pools group, but this morning, I think I posted it in another 5 pool groups. So we share the wealth a little bit, and yours is one of them.
Okay.
Thank you for doing that, Rudy. That's amazing. How you manufacture them? Just with a private company in Florida?
Home sewers. There's a
wow,
private
that's
company.
Great.
There is private companies and a lot of folks, the craft folks that do crafts and such, do a lot of sewing, and there are patterns available. I actually just released one in a blog that we did because I have my own blog site as well, Pool Operator Talk News. But we just released one with a pattern there. My wife has been making masks for local hospitals as well, but I got a company that they actually donate any of the money from the people that purchase extra toward making masks for healthcare workers.
That's fantastic.
So we went that route. So
nice.
We'll definitely share that information. That's good to know. Yeah.
A lot of cool things going on.
I like when we pull together in these times of crisis and this within what's going on right now. I think we're pulling together as a group, and that makes me happy that, for the most part, we're all trying to figure out how we can help each other, which I think is the way you want to be. Thank goodness in this type of situation. So.
Well, I think that lends toward what we said at the beginning when we were talking about how we have a loud voice when there's a lot of us, and actually getting that appealed here in this county. I think that was huge, and it's a big indication of that. I mean, it wasn't everybody, but there had to be a good, 20 appeals aside from what I put in, the calls I made, and then what FSPA had done with their contact. I mean, so it was folks pulling I know it was for their benefit, they wanted to work the next day, obviously.
Right,
but,
yeah.
I mean, it still shows what we can do when we, join forces. So
exactly.
It doesn't have to be all for evil. Sometimes we can join forces for good. We're not.
Absolutely, Rudy. Yes.
I'm going to plug my book right before we go. So.
Oh, I didn't even know you had a book.
You didn't know I wrote a book?
I did not. What's it called? What's the title?
It is called
Blades yes. Oh, I was thinking it was pool related. No, you are right. I do remember seeing that. Is that on Amazon or is it on Kindle?
It's on Amazon. It's available on Amazon and it's available on Kindle, so you can get it in paperback. It's a story about, it's actually somebody who suffers from a mental disorder, clinical vampirism. It's where you actually develop this whole lust for blood. But this guy actually has a delusional break and believes that he's a vampire, and he's wandering around in this town, and bodies are starting to pop up dead in different places. So
wow. See, Rudy's a big horror movie buff. I told you that. He's creative and a good writer too.
And timely enough, the main character is a nurse. So I think that's
interesting. You saw this coming.
Kicking ass nowadays. So
I told everybody I'm not going to panic until the zombie shows up at the house, and that's when I'm going to start panicking.
I'm not. I'm not panicking, but I'm not going to say that I'm not concerned.
Nervous. Yeah.
I mean, I've watched, being a horror movie buff, I have watched dozens of movies on outbreaks.
Yes.
Zombies,
yep.
Biological, all kinds of things.
It's concerning.
none of them capture the surreal feeling that comes with this.
Yeah.
It's just a different, you know what I mean? They just haven't captured that in any books or films. And so for me, it's kind of like, waiting to see it out. But at the same time, this could be a lot worse than we think it is.
Right. I agree.
They said babies couldn't get it. Now babies are getting it. I know they said
animals too. Yeah.
And then we have 7 tigers at the Bronx Zoo that get it.
I saw that. So
everything we've learned so far is crap.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not.
Learning.
It's information we're getting from elsewhere. It's not U.S. generated information, so I'm not knocking anything here. But wherever the information's coming from, it's not correct. So I don't know what to do.
I wish safety and, health for everybody out there, including you guys, the two of you and your family. And let's keep supporting each other. Let's keep helping each other and do whatever we can do. And definitely stay home. Don't be out running around. If you have a stay-at-home order, stay home.
I went out once to get a
grocery store. That's so annoying, isn't it?
Yes. I went out once to get a prescription. I've been in the house. I've not worked in probably about a month and a half now. I've been in the house since we've gone on quarantine. So it's just, I mean, I'm working, but not, my thing. So
everybody needs to stay home to help the rest of us who are,
and then everybody needs to know
over sooner if everybody just follows the rules.
Everybody needs to know that they're not alone. That's the big thing. And I think I'm going to sit down after this and put together something on what to do and how to prepare going forward. Because I know you were with NSPF in 2008. You had your own company still at that point in time, right? And I had a company as well. And you know what? It's a different game trying to work in that environment when nobody has any money.
Yeah.
So absolutely. I'm going to sit down and try to put something together, and hopefully we don't need to use it. That's my plan.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Rudy, for coming on. We truly appreciate it. Thanks for all your hard work.
And, no worries. It was a pleasure.
Pool Operator Talk. Is it Pool Operator News? Talk News? What is it?
Pool Operator Talk News. Yeah, you can usually find it at pooltalknews.com.
Yes, and then he has, obviously he's doing some online courses, and he has
a
column in Pool Pro magazine, and he's got a great book. You got time on your hands, so everybody can read the book now while you're sitting at home.
Go. I also I bought a cool URL for what I do. It's cpoclass.com.
Oh, nice.
Great.
Very nice.
Route people right to that online class that I'm doing. I didn't get rid of the other URL. That's still my main gig.
Yeah.
Just for the online focus that we're doing right now, cpoclass.com will get them there. And if you're on Facebook and want to join our group, we're at Talking Pools.
Talking Pools. And when we also have, and it's good to be a part of all those forums because you get different things from each, but they're great. And ours is Pool Pro. Ours is called Pool Pro. Yes, so we'd love for you to join that. Thank you so much, Rudy. We appreciate you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Rudy.
Have a safe and healthy day.
Yeah, you guys too. Be safe out there. And, like I said, if y'all, Dave, I know you're out in the field, so I'm trying to make sure everybody's good and restricted to essential services. But, grab a mask while we still have some left.
Got one. I finally got one, last week. So
okay, good.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
All right, you too.
A new voice in the industry, a resource for all, education for you. This is Pool Pro Podcast. Build relationships and share important news as we get ready for our next backyard adventure. Pool Pro Podcast. Backyard adventures are better together.
We also want to thank our sponsor, the California Pool and Spa Association, who is working hard for the industry through responsible government relations and education.
Please take a moment to share, like, and review our content with all of those that would be interested.